So last time we talked about why does Richard do what he does, and the fact that he's bored basically, and then so goes on a rampage. This is more about the twists and turns in the plot of Richard III. So we've said that Richard's brother, is now king, and so Richard has decided to get rid of the king and become the king himself. So I guess the first change is when Clarence is sent to prison and Richard has him killed. When he's then executed, he pretends he knows nothing about it, and when the king finds out that he's been killed and Queen Elizabeth, they're completely shocked and worried, because suddenly Clarence being killed without their knowledge is something that doesn't usually happen in the court. Edward has a fit. He's in remorse. He regrets that his brother's been executed on his word, and he dies. So the big change there is the king is now dead, which means it will go to the little duke, who is not very old. He's a teenager, and he will become Edward V. Now Richard, of course, knows this, so Richard meets the princes on their way to London and escorts them, convinces them to go to the Tower. So the second turn of plot, is that the princes are now in the Tower and guarded by Richard, and Richard wants to be king. So Queen Elizabeth, the prince's mother, is suddenly horrified because she knows what potentially could go horribly wrong. So the next turning is the princes in the Tower. Then Richard connives to convince all the people that he should be king and not the prince, because he is really not the royal heir apparent, and the people agree with force with Richard, and so suddenly he's king. So there's, wow, a massive change in the plot, and it all goes horribly wrong for Queen Elizabeth and the princes, particularly the princes, because they get killed. And then Queen Elizabeth knows that she's off barred into no man's land. Lady Anne that dies. Richard married Lady Anne earlier, and she's no use to him anymore, so she's gone. And then he gets rid of Buckingham. So the big change of the plot there is getting rid of Buckingham, because Buckingham then forms his own army to try and get rid of Richard. So Richard is king. Massive change of plot. Before then, we all love Richard. He's funny, he's witty, he talks to the audience, he makes asides, and we'll go, oh, isn't he funny, he's wicked, he kills people, but he winks. But as soon as the princes are killed, the whole play changes. And we go, ooh, we don't like him very much. And he knows this too. And the interesting thing that Shakespeare does, he reveals Richard's conscience, and he starts to feel guilty, and he talks about liking himself or loving himself or hating himself. And so suddenly the whole play has gone into a darker place. And then Richmond comes along, who is Henry Tudor, who is an heir apparent that Richard has to fight, because if Henry Tudor wins the battle, he'll become king, and he knows that Henry Tudor wants to marry Queen Elizabeth's daughter, also called Elizabeth, just to confuse things. And so Richard wants to marry Elizabeth before Henry does, but Queen Elizabeth pulls the rug from under him, and so Richard has to fight Richmond, and he does, and Richard is killed, which is pretty much another complete turn of the plot, obviously, because the lead character is now dead, and Richmond becomes the Tudor king, and there's all peace and prosperity and happy times forever and ever and ever, and no more battles and no more fighting, supposedly. And so the final turn of the plot is, of course, Richard's death, and that's the twists and turns, broadly speaking, in Richard III.